What's up, everybody? This is Mark from SolarGames, and today, part 2, SolarGames AMA. I think we got like 4 more pages left, so I think this is going to be probably a 3-parter. I think I can do probably another 2 pages and then 2 more pages for the last video. So that's going to be exciting for the people who would like this kind of conversation. For the people who don't like this conversation, there will be more hate and vitriol against Wizards coming soon. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. All right. Okay. First of all, continue where we left off from last time. Yoko Be Loco asks, so I usually crack and list a case or 2 of each box on each new MTG release. Is there any way to consistently get Magic boxes for a new set a few days before official release without distribution? I've gone to my LGS and asked a few stores online, but not even Rudy can get me my boxes by Wednesday before release. I need a day or 2 to open and sort and list everything, so on release, and so they're basically, so on release day, Friday, so meaning be ready for release day on Friday, yeah. So I have a couple comments on this whole thing. Wizard of the Coast has created this whole idea of pre-release. Originally, the idea is that it's going to be able to give the market some time to have some fun with the cards, right? It's a pre-release. It's really a love letter to the LGS to be able to say, hey, LGS, guess what? You have a early time when the product's available to you and only you before the mass market gets it. Also, usually during pre-release, the quantities are limited to every single store, to every single distribution, so as to make sure that kind of like the prices don't skyrocket out of control for this event, right? But more and more as we move forward with Wizard of the Coast realizing they need to grab that money quicker because they need to start previewing cards for the next set almost immediately after, they've pushed more of the product from what we traditionally call release, which is the week after pre-release, pretty much to pre-release. I mean, at this point, most LGSs can sell you collector's boosters, bundles, and pre-release kits, and draft boosters and set boosters. So that's the whole product line. I mean, maybe they'll have a little bit of limited quantity, but that's pretty much it, right? That's a big problem. And that's, of course, making it also these online sellers who are more individual, who are more kind of selling directly to the customers, you also have to rush, because if you're not rushing for it, you're missing out on the whole pre-release thing, right? A couple ways to kind of solve this problem. One is you just kind of pre-sale like everyone else. Obviously on TCG Player, they won't let you do that unless you're brick and mortar, so, or registered, certified hobby shop, whatever, which means, of course, you just have to go to eBay to do this. But again, I have some choice words for pre-selling, so that's why I've kind of gotten out of that game, because I think basically it's like this, right? Like the cases where I make money because the cards tanked afterwards, I'm happy, but my customers aren't happy. And the cases where I lost money because I sold something, and of course, I ship all my orders, I don't go, oh, out of stock, guys, I'm so sorry, and then relist that shit for like twice the price. I've seen people do that. It's really annoying. Those cases, right, then I'm not happy, obviously, right, because I just sold a card for half the price that it should be. So basically at this point, I'm just like, look, the whole singles game is kind of like crazy, because what should have happened with the whole pre-release thing was the cards are at a good price. You don't have to rush to the market. You don't have to go compete with a bunch of people. But now with stores rushing there, the single sellers rushing there, everybody else rushing there, it's basically that whole market's gone, right? So the whole pre-sale, whatever, singles market pretty much doesn't exist anymore. And I'm okay with having and letting stores kind of take care of that. And, because look, there's always going to be some people who are going to buy it. So, sorry, that's a little bit sidebar rant, but I'm finally onto the actual question. The answer is no, because legally the stores are not allowed to give you any products before pre-release anyways, right? So if you buy things for pre-release, they're not likely to give that to you early. And logistically, let me tell you this, like distribution don't even ship the products to stores until usually like Monday or Tuesday, the week of pre-release. So basically you're getting the product like Wednesday, Thursday, sometimes Friday morning, and there's like been, shipping issues. So the stores don't even have the product ready anyways. So basically most of the time, the earliest the store can even possibly do it, and it's kind of illegal for them to sell that product to you, would be like a Thursday. So you're not really saving that much time anyway. So my recommendation, don't worry about it too much. Don't, like Timmy this whole thing with time. if you're in that singles cracking business, you're not really losing too much selling on Friday versus selling on the week before or whatever. And honestly, if you're doing that, you should be doing the pre-release, the pre-sale thing anyways, because that's where the money is. And you shouldn't do the whole like, I don't know, try to crack the box on Wednesday so you can figure out what you can list on Thursday. And of course, if you're doing the pre-sale business, let me give you another pro tip, you're gonna have to open a lot of boxes. And I don't mean like 2 cases. I mean try 6 to 8 to 10 cases. So you're down about $5,000. So be really careful about this whole thing because look, with Wiz's release schedule nowadays, you're downing $5,000, and that's not the specialty set, that's just the normal set, each set. So you're putting out $5,000 ahead of schedule, ahead of everything, each set to sell the pre-release to ensure you have enough cards to ship for everybody who buys your cards before you even make money back. So, and then you may have to go commit that much money again for another set within a month, right? So just word of caution, and it's a lot of work. Word of caution. I highly don't recommend anyone doing that business. And if you're doing it, it's going to take some time, but learn the basics and understand what you're trying to do. Just there you go. Ed B asks, hey Mark, as we talked previously, I've been immersed in the TCG world completely for the last little while. Okay, and then even incorporated it into my career as a college professor. So my question is, what percentage of the general population do you think is involved in some way in the TCG world, and do you think it's growing? And if so, how quickly? Thanks. I like how you didn't say, do you think it's collapsing or do you think it's declining? So I think the general consensus that it is absolutely growing, and I think it's growing at a very similar pace, percentage-wise, but not in actual number-wise, as video games. So hear me out on this one, right? So I see what's happening is that Wizard of the Coast has been printing more products and in general raising prices. Well, they can't both print more products and raise prices unless the market is just bigger than what they were before. So they are commanding, basically, they're commanding like, price on this, and they can say, look, we have dominance, we can basically raise prices, print even more products, and by and large, people are still buying it. So overall, I think the market has to be growing. And then in addition to that, there are so many extra games now, right? So you have just looking across the field again, we've talked about this before, but Sorcery, One Piece card game. A lot of people are telling me about it. I don't personally like it. It looks too much like Duel Masters, and I'm not sure if I really like that game anyways, but that's there, right? And your Yu-Gi-Oh! And your Pokemon's still there. Pokemon, in fact, I think would be growing. I think it also depends on whether you're talking about TCGs from perspective of like players or just pure collectors. But I can tell you right now, with Pokemon, the collector base is huge, and it's definitely still growing because whenever there's like money or looks like easy money, people are going to jump in, right? Of course, now with Grand Archive, as far as I can tell, Grand Archive's growth is insane. So for the people who don't know, I just recently ran a patron sale on Grand Archive, and it has done better in this month's patron sale than my Magic patron sale from last month. Just to give you an example. In fact, I think I had 4 or 5 new patrons sign up just for Grand Archive. So another example of like, look, this game has legs. I still think it's too early, and this could be like a Fab 2.0 type of thing, or Fab 3.0. Like, Flesh and Blood in the early years, there's a big rush into the game before the collapse, before the actual recovery, etc. This could be that. I'm not sure. I personally like the game. In fact, I actually like it better than Flesh and Blood. So there's that. Anyways, so it's growing pretty fast. I would say it's definitely growing. I don't have any numbers specifically to back it up, but I can tell you there's no way the market could absorb all these card games if it's not growing. And I can tell you from a perspective of like people who are, locally at all these like different board game cafes and, game shops, you'll see there's more and more people kind of just showing up playing games than before, I would say. And I think the reason for that is twofold, right? One is there's more available games, and then the generation that kind of grew up with board games, and I don't mean like Monopoly, I mean like Euro gaming, like a little bit more complicated stuff like Settlers of Catan, all the way up to, I don't know, like, Citadel, Caracas. If you played a lot of board games, you know what I'm talking about. Illuminati, I really like that game. Personally, I love like Game of Thrones, the board game. Great game, hard to find nowadays, right? The generation that grew up with this kind of board games are now parents like me, right? And so part of what's kind of going to happen is if I didn't lose interest in this, I still have a friend group who plays these things. I'm basically going to pass that on to my kids, and you can see how that's kind of like a force multiplier. Well, because I'm still living, my kids are going to be living, and so we have now 2 players instead of 1. So I suspect that's exactly what happens. And a lot of people too, patrons including, I talk to, they're like, oh, you know, I'm buying this so I can play with my kids. It's a very common thing that happens. So yeah, I 100% I 100% think it's growing. As to the first part of this question about what percentage of the general population is involved in some way with TCG, so as a player, collector, investor, etc., I think honestly of the world population, it's really rough because I have no clue what some of the countries, their economic situations are. Like, for example, like how many people in, I don't know, like India, right, a very populous country, are involved with TCG. Probably not that much, right? Because I think the social and economic doesn't work for it. Plus, they have ridiculous like import taxes on stuff. So I don't know if like TCGs can even go into that market. Just don't know, right? Maybe video games is more accessible there. Versus taking a place like, for example, America or China or wherever, Taiwan, Japan. Japan's a great example here. Japan's market of people who play card games is pretty huge, actually, because there's so many options. A lot of people really like that kind of stuff. So it's really hard to put a percentage on it. But if you just want me to spit a number out, let's talk about like let's just take like North America, Canada, right? Type of countries. I would say in America, you're probably looking at like a good 5% to 10% of people who are involved with TCG. Obviously, we have selection bias because a lot of my friends are players, but that's only because probably that's also the reason why we're friends, right? There's that. And the last point I'll add to this thing is I definitely think it's growing because even with Grand Archive, recently I've been playing with a lot of people, and they tell me they have never played a trading card game or a card game, whatever, ever. They might have played board games and video games, etc., but never trading card games. And this is the first one that they're playing, but also willing to put money in. So think about how that works for some people. It's not just like, hey, I'm playing this game. I'm actually putting my money into it. If I'm putting my money into it, well, now it's kind of like serious. So there's that. Yeah, so bright future, I think, for the trading card game world. Obviously, if we go into recession, we go into war, whatever, this would be considered a luxury good. So likely it's going to decline, right? People are going to want bread over, I don't know, Black Lotus. So there's that. Cool. Style006 asks, what is your first mega pull from a pack? Ooh, first mega pull. That's a really good question. Let me see if I have it somewhere here. All right, give me a sec. I'm going to go see if I can find something real quick. All right. Maybe it's in here. Like I don't know. Like let's look at like back in the old time machine for Mark here. Let's see if I can find anything that's like crazy cool here. It's probably not in this binder. Oh, I know where it is. All right, one sec. Be right back. I'm here. I feel like I just did a Rudy thing. This is my mega pull ever, I guess. I think I also did a bad thing by when I took out the card, and I think it damaged it, but this card. So this is a reverse foil Viscera, and I pulled this myself. So this is the reverse foil serialized Viscera. And in fact, this is the first serialized card ever by Wizards of the Coast created. So I have number 28. SolarGames Mark is the proud owner of number 28. I probably will never sell this card, but yeah, I've been offered, like, I think the highest I've gotten was $2,500. But again, this is like, I think when it first released, people were kind of like not sure what these are worth. Look, if a 1 of 500 is $500, that Viscera is worth way more than that, being that it's the first one, etc. And I get it, like it's not an amazing card, but that's not the point. The point is not it's an amazing card. The point is that it's serialized. So there's something with it too. So there you go. That's my mega poll. Now you know what it is. Okay, MXB Ralph09 asks, what is your favorite tribal deck? And if everything special, nothing is. Thank you for keeping it classy. Great. What is my favorite tribal? I don't normally play tribal because I think it's a little bit too easy, right? So I think for my decks, I usually like to kind of be, I don't know, like I do play Tron a lot. I like building like a mega giant like monster and just swing in one time and go. But if I had to pick tribal, I do like rogues a lot. So rogues, ninja, that kind of stuff, I like. I like these little like sneaky things that are like doing little damage, but they don't do a lot. And then before you know it, it's already too late, kind of thing. So there's something fun about that. I like playing with other people's cards if I can, that kind of stuff. So the rogues enable me to do that. But I'm going to be honest, I feel like rogues don't really have a strong win con. And I'm sure it's me saying that, people are going to be like, no, Mark, you got to play this card. You got to play this card. I get it, man. Like, but yeah, I just feel like rogues definitely my thing. I like rogues a lot. I don't know if that's normal or not. I feel like in Diablo 4, if I get time to play that, I probably will play a rogue, I think so. Anyways, Limbo Lance asks, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro has to know by now that the player base is not happy. Yet they continue to focus on higher tier sets, collectors, and secret layers. The bad taste they put into the mouth of many from 30th anniversary, and now the doubling of prices for Lord of the Rings release. So I think this is like a multi-tier question. Okay, cool. So this is actually the question part. So the question is, with them dropping to fewer sets, it appears they are attempting to stir the player base with the return of various mechanics like effect, now battles. Do you get the sense that sets are getting more powerful? Power creep. Yes, absolutely. I don't think that there's dropping to fewer sets. I think what you might mean is, and again, I'm just interpreting here, I think you might mean dropping of blocks and having just sets by themselves, because there's not less sets now. There's actually more set releases. Now, I think for the standard sets, it's still the same, but of course, remember, we have these summer sets, we have the master sets, we have a specialty commander sets, those kind of things. So we definitely have more sets now, I think, than before. So it's definitely more, not less. But if we just consider standard, yeah, absolutely. Like look at March of the Machine, look at like Fire Exit All Be One, look at Brothers War, Dominator United. I think all four of those sets are very pushed. And you could see like March of the Machine is very pushed. I think Fire Exit All Be One is very pushed. So yeah, absolutely. I think all the sets are getting stronger. I think Wizards of the Coast has figured out how to do creatures very well, unlike early Magic. I think if you remember 93, 94, 95, 96, that early era of Magic, I think the design was actually really poor for creatures. A lot of them had upkeep. A lot of them have like really ridiculous rates. But the artifacts, enchantments, spells were much better back then. And I think it's really flipped the reverse now, right? Because creatures are way better than they were before. And we have so many answers, solutions in every single color now. I almost feel like the color pie is less meaningful now, because like every color has answers for everything. Again, Commander first design, just really just pushing it so that every color in Commander, no matter what you pick, you feel like you're part of the game. And I totally respect that, and I totally feel like every single Commander player deserves to have a good game. But I also think it's more important and maybe more interesting for example, a red player who's playing mono red in Commander to think of a way to win the game. It's not easy, but I'm sure there's a way to do it, and I don't think it is printing more solutions into red. Okay, so there's that. So yeah, so is it power creeping? Absolutely. Like, I mean, I don't think anyone would deny that, right? Number two, reprints are a way to influence the secondary market in a dramatic fashion. WotC could, in theory, hammer any card they wish into reprint poverty, with them having no entity in the market. Do you see them trying to buy or create a marketplace to compete with sites like TCG Player and manipulate card prices, especially as they appear to want to move more and more into direct sales and kill the LGSs? Yeah. Good question. This is actually kind of interesting. I think on the surface, Wizard of the Coast opening a marketplace sounds ridiculous because they don't need to do that. They print money. Like imagine if you print money and then you're like, well, I gotta also like, I don't know, like have a bakery or have a bank. You don't have to have those things. You print the money. You print the money already. You don't need the secondary thing. So there's that. Now, obviously, they're not happy with LGSs in general because, look, honestly, they just don't move enough product. It's just what it is. LGSs aren't happy because they're basically having no margins. So for LGSs to make money, the economic works out so that Wizard has to make a lot less money. So Wizard of the Coast obviously thinks if we move more and more direct to consumer, we make more money. As an example, Amazon is a distributor and a store. No, not obviously not for play, right? It's a just purchase. But if Wizard of the Coast moves all their inventory to Amazon instead, yeah, I mean they will just make more money directly because the cards will be cheaper for the players, and Wizard would have a larger cut because they cut out distribution, your general distribution, and definitely the in store. So absolutely, that's the direction they want to move. But I don't think they really care to have a secondary market as an actual marketplace to manipulate pricing or earn money. The only case I can see Wizard of the Coast actually making a secondary marketplace type of thing for their own card would be just to give good economic data for their economists who absolutely understands what the secondary market is and absolutely tracks all the prices across every single thing all the time. Because how else can they almost always perfectly price a secret layer? How else can they always perfectly price certain products that are this single products? It's because they have economists working on these models and figuring out exactly what to charge that people are willing to pay, but at the same time not at a loss to them, right? Again, you don't want to be too expensive, nobody buys. You don't want to be too cheap that, sorry, the other way around. If you don't want to be too expensive, nobody buys, and you don't want to be too cheap that you lose all the money. You didn't sell enough of it, right? You didn't sell enough. You didn't sell for the right amount. So there's definitely that. Okay, last part of this question, or last question, is 5-card booster packs. Do you feel they will juice the packs in order to try to establish this as a niche product and eliminate the hideous jumpstart sets? So I'm sure this is a question about Aftermath. Now that I think this question was asked before Aftermath was released, and now we've seen it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're gonna get rid of jumpstarts. Jumpstart basically replaced these things, these starter decks, right? So a lot of these decks, if you recall, they were given out at LGSs for free. So you go to LGS, you just get one of these things for free, and you could play whatever. That's how they did it before. But of course, well, Wizard said, hey, we need more money, so they're basically printing those but charging for them instead. I think Jumpstart will probably not go away because we do need an introductory product, and it's fairly simple. I guess it's fine. You take two packs and shuffle them and play. So I don't know what the solution would be, but I think I don't think these 5-card packs are going to replace anything. In fact, right now, I think given the sales data of Aftermath, Wizard probably understands that this thing didn't do so well and likely will not be making a supplementary set without major adjustments. Now, there's still a possibility. A lot of companies do this. They don't give up on the first try. They usually let it fail 2 or 3 times, and they could have already designed ahead of Aftermath, and there was going to be a supplementary set coming, I don't know, in half a year to a year already, maybe. If that's true, then probably they either will scrap it and then rush it into a different product or something else. Who knows? But yeah, I don't think Aftermath and the kind of epilogue and prequel boosters. Somebody in my comment said, we have epilogue boosters, just wait for the prequel boosters. It's pretty good. I don't think any of these products are going to replace Jumpstart, unfortunately, and that's just that. Because again, it hits totally different markets here. Okay, Isaac Kemp, IZAAK, I don't know how to pronounce that, says, really appreciate your videos, especially the heads up you gave about Festival in a Box in Minneapolis. Yeah, I mean, you're welcome. Who are your favorite MTG YouTube content creators? If I don't name somebody, does that mean I'm throwing shade? I really like this guy named Mark from SolarGames. I think he's pretty cool. Secondly, I think, man, like who's that guy who's in a basement in Florida? He's pretty tight, you know. Rudy Omega Divestments maybe. And of course, I actually, you know, honestly, I really like Tolarian. I think the professor is, his heart's in the right place. I like people who are genuine. I like people who are real. And I mean, I don't know who Brian is and whether he's like this in real life. And one day I wish to meet him, not as a fan, but maybe just as a friend. It would be nice. And really be able to kind of chat with him, understand who he is. But I kind of get a feeling like he's pretty genuine. He's pretty down to earth. I'm kind of sad that he moved away from the Bay Area. He used to live in San Francisco, so fairly close to me. But now he's not too far. I can probably visit him, whatever. But maybe, yeah, I would love to meet him and see who he is and what he's all about. And I think it would be interesting. So there's that. What inspired you to make these kinds of videos in the first place? I often have a lot of things to say. Okay, by the way, I effed up your name, but you were asking some really good questions. These are the what is this, like 26 minutes in the video, dude? Like the best questions are coming at the end. This is awesome. What inspired, man? Like I think early on, basically, I just realized I had a lot of things to say. I told my friends all these things, and they were like, "That's a good point. That's a good point. This is a good point." You know, that's kind of, oh, I didn't know this. I didn't know that. And I realized very quickly, like the way I think through a problem is actually very different from other people, and that might not be a bad thing, obviously for me. But then I was like, wait, you know, why don't I just go out there and tell people about it? You know, maybe I can show people what, I don't know, some things that they don't understand. And that's pretty much how I started. I just said, let's turn on the camera. I don't care if in, I don't know, 10 years I get 100 subscribers. Who cares? And then just keep making these videos because it makes me happy, right? It also saves me time explaining something to my friend. I could just say, go watch that video. But it turned out that, you know, not only my friends like them, I've made more friends on the internet and you guys like them. So that's why. And so now every day, if I think of something or I'm passionate about something, I turn on the camera, I tell you about it. And that's just how I'm doing these things now, I guess. So that's what inspires me today. But originally it was just because I had a lot to say and I felt like I wanted to do something with my extra time. So I turned on the camera and just set it to the camera and upload it to YouTube. And now we have SolarGames. Number 3, is cardboard your full-time job or is it just a side hustle? Yeah, side hustle. I have a full-time job. I have a second full-time job, which is, so my full-time job is, you know, my 9 to 5, whatever. And then my second full-time job is I'm a dad. So being a parent is like a lot of work. So there's that. And then in addition to that, obviously, I like to have fun. I like to, you know, play games is the kind of thing. I have a shelf of board games in the back over there that I have not played for a long time. But I used to back in, when I was just in my first job, I would host. We had such a blast. I lived in Connecticut, and you know, hello, friends from Connecticut, if you were watching, I miss you guys so much. But we used to have board game nights after work on Fridays every week. I mean, I think we did this for like 2 years. It was a blast. We drank beers, we eat good food, play any board game we want, destroy a friend named Matt. Basically, the joke was that whenever Matt would play games with us, we just kill him. Doesn't matter what game we play, he's the first one to die every single time. I think at some point it became not so funny for him anymore, so he basically just didn't want to play any games. Like he'll still show up and hang out, but he just doesn't want to play. So we had to like adjust that rule towards the end. But yeah, Matt's a nice guy. I'll give you the full story of like Matt and why we did that to him at some like point in the future. I think it's gonna be a good one actually. So there's that. Thank you for the questions. Those are great. Okay, so I think, you know what, we're going to end there, and I have enough questions probably for one more video, and then we're going to be good to go. So, Mark, SolarGames, stay classy, and thank you for the questions.